Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is The Edge of Adventure. Thanks for being here. My name, of course, is Adam Asher, and today I have the privilege of introducing you to Daniel Lalonde, joining us from Give a Hand and Monde Parlement. Daniel, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Adam. I'm really pleased to be here.
Well, it's great to get to know you today for many reasons. Of course, I know that you and your organization, again in French, it's called Monde Parlement. And then in English, it's known as Give a Hand. We're going to get to know what you guys do so much in so many different parts of the world. But it's also a special privilege for me today because, we met through a common friend a few months back, and you've been so active following the Edge of Adventure and also in the new app Rugged Compass. For me in particular, it's just an extra privilege to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Give a Hand. What's the concept behind Give a Hand, Monde Parlement? What's the concept here, Daniel?
Well, to be honest, Give a Hand started from my own, experience in the field. Basically, I was working in India at the time, and I was working in different communities actually as a consultant in international development, in especially in education. And basically, I noticed that a lot of the organizations that I had been working with were small organizations that most of the time we didn't get to hear about, and that were doing really interesting work on the ground. So I thought to myself, as these organizations do not get, for most of them, recognition and access to large funding agencies, I could maybe start doing something with them and get them to be known and get them to be connected to potential funders in Canada initially, which is where I'm from. And then afterwards, see if we could get connected to other funders elsewhere in the world.
And Daniel, I know you work with quite a few different organizations. I'm not going to put you on the spot, and I mean, I'm sure you know all the details, right? But approximately how many different organizations have you worked with throughout the years?
Well, that's a good question, actually. We've done, I would say, so far in the last, let's say, just for the purpose of conversation, in the last 10 years, which are now 12 years, but we've done close to 90 projects all around the world, and more than, I would say, more or less 30 different organizations so far. And this being in Africa, in Asia, in South America. Yeah.
Also, I know that culture and language is something that you in particular appreciate. I think probably your own background enforces that or reinforces that. But how do you take that into consideration as you work in on different continents, different countries, different cultures with different languages? Do you have the ability to work in multiple languages, multicultural platforms?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the for me, languages is one of the key aspect of the work that we do, especially when you're working in the community. So, I lived in many countries, like in Brazil, in India, in South America, in Guatemala. I worked in Nepal, Indonesia, and every time that I had this opportunity, I would make sure that I would learn the local language because it's an opportunity to get closer to the community you work with and you serve. It creates a bond with them and it gets them to be really, really appreciative of all the efforts you put into, not just solely being there, doing work with them, but at the same time, they know that you really love their language, you love their culture, and you want to make an effort to get closer to them. So that's one of the aspects. The second aspect is that I've always been keen on languages myself, being French Canadian. I speak English, but I speak several other languages like Hindi, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian. So obviously, over the years, I've made a point of, getting accustomed to the local, and their culture when I was working somewhere in the world. So that would be really important for me.
I agree with you, Daniel. When you make an effort to learn the language and to understand the
Mhm.
culture, and the language is key.
Yeah.
And even if a person perhaps doesn't think of themselves as being gifted in learning languages, the effort to learn a few phrases means so much, because I think in a way it shows that acceptance of them for who they are and an appreciation. So highly encourage that. And anytime you have the ability, and those who like you who have the gift of languages and can learn them, and it's been
Mhm.
just a part of your life, it's a very enriching experience when you get to communicate in their native tongue, in the language, because that's allows you a deeper understanding and a deeper appreciation for who they are.
Yeah.
So, regarding French and the name of the organization,
Mhm.
Monde par la main, what does that mean?
That means basically the world by the hand. So giving a hand, like it says in English, give a hand. So that was the initial idea behind the name of the organization, as I felt very connected to those more marginalized group, so those who do not have a voice. And for me, working in all different communities, whether it was in slum communities in India or favelas in Brazil. It was always about the culture, the people, and providing them an opportunity to talk about who they are, what they are, and their own culture, and putting that forward. So giving them, we work with a lot as well of indigenous communities in South America. So for them, as you know, the difficulty is that there's a lot of discrimination against these societies, and providing an opportunity for them to talk about who they are, their culture, and putting it forward was very much as a part, as the basis of what Give a Hand is about. So yeah.
Daniel, let me ask you a very simple question, but one that is a bit open ended, and you can answer it any way you like.
Mhm.
What does it mean to serve?
That's a good question. Actually, I've worked with loads of volunteers over the last 20 years that I've been doing this work. And one of the things that I used to say to the volunteers that would come and work on different projects where I was around the world was to basically put yourselves out there as being available to others, listening to others, and not judging, and not coming with basically because you come from this place or this place with your own set of your mindset, and just basically be there and provide opportunities for those working with you to basically get the chance to uh, express themselves fully as they are without judgment. So basically, serving others is basically being available to others and being there for others as they are without judgment.
I think often, I'm sure it happens, but often we have this perception that when someone goes in or an organization goes in to help, they go in to do things their way.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that in the organizations that you choose to support and promote and serve in your own way? What do you look for in an organization that's it's helping in Africa, it's helping in South America, fill in the blank? Um, how do you determine whether they're going to go in and do things their way, or they're going to have that relationship, that rapport that you're talking about with the communities they're serving?
Well, one of the main aspects of the work that we do at Give a Hand is that we do not basically uh, substitute ourselves to those who are locals who run the project. And we're basically, assisting them, providing tools and opportunities for them that they might not necessarily at times have identified straight away. So for that reason, we work with, we choose, I would say, yeah, we choose organizations that are led by passionate leaders that do have at heart the interests of the community they serve. So basically, we make sure that whoever is running that project, they are running that project for the right reason. The right reason being for the benefit of that community, whether it's in Africa, Asia, South America, making sure that they are fully aware of the issues that are being, addressed in those communities, and in full respect of the people that they're working with. So otherwise, we will not be selecting that organization to work with. So we've got a very strict grid, I would say, of evaluation of the type of organization we will select to work with us. And we get to pinpoint, I would say, the organization we'll work with. And it's not the other way around. We don't, those who solicitate us into working with Give a Hand are not necessarily the organization we're going to be working with, because we first do the due diligence of this organization we feel we'd like to be working with, and we see if basically they align with the mission that we have at Give a Hand. And if so, then we'll contact that organization to see if we can, work jointly in partnership.
This is The Edge of Adventure, and of course, my name is Adam Asher. Great to have you with us. Thanks for being here. Today, my guest is Daniel Lalonde, and he is joining us from Montreal, Canada. The organization Monde par la main, or in English, Give a Hand, and you can look him up online at mondeparlamain.org. And if you are listening to the audio version, you can always get that link simply by going to theedgeofadventure.com. Look for the post that pertains to this conversation. You'll find the links there. And if you're watching the video version, of course, we've had the website on the screen, mondeparlamain.org. If you speak French, that's going to be easy. If you don't, we'll have it. We'll make it easy for you. Anyway, it's just great to have Daniel on the show. We're learning about Give a Hand, learning about him a little bit. We'll get into a bit more of the questions that pertain to him and his past in just a few minutes. But as we think about Give a Hand, the way I've noticed that you tend to work is you tend to see your role as being a bridge. Talk to me about this bridge that is Give a Hand.
Right. So when we initiated the organization, that was one of the prerequisites into providing opportunities, if you like, to share the great work that was being done by all of the partner organizations that we had working with us for the benefit of these communities, but at the same time connecting them to compassionate donors, funders in Canada. As you know, we all lead a very, rapid life, and we're running around like we were just discussing earlier. And at the same time, I feel that a lot of people want to help, and a lot of the times they don't know where to look or what to look for. They might have, for instance, a connection to a country they visited, or they might have a connection due to personal reasons to a country. And all of these aspects are taken into consideration when we get to work with a funder or a foundation working with Give a Hand. So we try to address and we try to make the connections between potential funders, like I was saying, and the right organization that will suit their interests, and they'll feel connected to it, from the heart, not solely through writing a check. So that way we make sure that the organization is connected to the donor. They get to hear about them regularly, even if they were, for instance, we had some of our funders in the past that felt really they wanted to travel and visit the project they were supporting in Vietnam, for instance, or Cambodia, and they went to visit their project. This is something we can organize with our partner organization. We are not an organization that is set up into organizing, you know, travels per se, but we can at least organize these first contacts with the director of the organization. A funder would be supporting. So that's the idea behind it.
Daniel, regarding the specific areas of focus that you and your team look for, one of them, I believe, is women's empowerment and leadership. Talk to me about that, why that is so important in the world today.
Well, basically, it started from my own experiences because initially, when I started working in that field 20 years ago, I come from the film business and I was working as a costume designer before for 25 years. So when I started, I initiated the transition to a new career, basically. Um, One of my teachers said to me, it would be great because with all the potential and the, you know, the knowledge you have and experiences you have, I'm sure you could benefit a lot of women's group, you know, into developing new product, you know, into crafts and that kind of stuff. Initially, I was not really interested because it felt too close to what I knew. So, but then at the same time, I thought, okay, let's try it and see how it goes. So I started initially working with women's group into developing new products into their crafts business in different countries. And also, we would be doing all types of workshops for them into trying to make sure that the products were good quality and all that kind of stuff. And further to that, when I started Give a Hand later on, I thought, right, well, these experiences are obviously of importance because I realized, you know, in situ when I was working there that women do need that support. They do need to be assisted into developing products that will be of great help for themselves, for their small businesses, or develop as micro entrepreneurs, or you know, conduct leadership programs on the ground. So basically, that's how it started. And then I suddenly realized, as the women were coming to classes, most of the time in most countries where I was working, the women were always coming with their kids. So to make sure that the women would be busy at what I was teaching, then with my colleagues, we initiated new projects with the kids or with the teenagers that were coming to the class. So then we had the opportunity, if you like, to provide to even more people in the communities where we were working different type of programs. So that's how women's empowerment started, being introduced as one of the main sector of intervention for Give a Hand.
One of those, another one of those sectors includes protection of the environment.
Mhm.
And I'd love to hear your take on that and how you keep that in mind as you work with these organizations worldwide.
Well, over the years, we've realized that a lot of the projects we were initiating with partners, a lot of the demands we had from the partners were linked to the protection of environment. Um, this being whether it was like recycling projects, whether it was creating eco gardens in different countries, all that kind of projects were very predominant in the demands and the interests that partner organization had. Because we have to realize, for instance, if we're working, and we are working, for instance, in Madagascar, in Africa, um, at the moment, Madagascar is going through a very difficult sort of famine situation. And the creation of like local gardens in schools or within organization crucial is crucial for food security for these communities, for these groups. And of course, it is something that we take all too easily for granted in our own countries, because everybody can have a garden if they want, or I understand not necessarily a big garden in the city if you're living in a city, but at the same time, I just think that in these communities where we work in Africa, this is something simple that can have a major effect on the communities that we work with over there. So we are doing presently work like this in with gardens and building greenhouses, for instance, in Africa and in South America, in Peru, for instance. So this is definitely very important for Give a Hand. We also do projects which are linked to recycling. So we work with women's group, for instance, I'll give you an example, in Mozambique, in Africa, where women are to be trained as micro entrepreneur to basically collect recyclable goods like cardboards and glass and all that, and metal and all that kind of stuff. And through the recycling, the women get to sell these to the local authorities, and then get a salary from it, and be able then to sustain their own families. So it's all these kinds of initiatives which we set up with different groups around the world, and addressing, like I was saying initially, Adam, is that addressing needs that are there at the moment for the communities.
We're talking today with Daniel Lalonde from Give a Hand, or in French, Monde par la main. He's here with us today on the Edge of Adventure, and it's great to get to know all that they're doing and also to get to know him a little bit. I'm going to ask one other question regarding the areas of focus, because these are fascinating, important, of course. What does it mean to affect social change through the arts?
Well, that is, again, is something which is very, very dear to my heart, because as I come from, the art world, if you like, I've trained as an artist, and worked in that field all my life. And I've seen the potential of art for social changes, the potential that it has to initiate changes within communities. Why? Because in all communities around the world, even if you're the poorest of the poorest, one thing that links us all is culture, is music, is art. It's not necessarily available to all of us on the same level, but at the same time, when you give an opportunity to kids or to young adults or to mothers or fathers to participate in peace, to be doing together within their community, whether it's a play on a particular subject addressing specific issues, whether it's gender equality, or whether it's recycling, or whether it's sexual violence. It can be as difficult as these type of subjects that we can address through art, and it makes it much more easier to access, I should say. It makes it easier to access for the community to these, and talk about these specific issues, and then provide, like I was saying earlier, a voice for them to talk about these issues, and then present it to a specific group, with it, whether it's for the rest of the community to see a play, to see an intervention, to see a mural that you will be doing, on a specific theme. So all of these tools, I should say, the art tools, are used for that purpose, and obviously provide for these community a great opportunity to have fun and do something light, but at the same time, very meaningful. So that's how I perceive it. So, yeah.
Daniel, you've had the opportunity to travel the world multiple times. You've worked and lived in different parts of the world. Are there a couple of places or experiences, parts of the world that stick out in your mind as having been very meaningful to you while you were there?
Yeah, I would say that all of the places I've had the chance to travel to were meaningful in for different reasons. But recently, it was funny because it was while watching one of your podcasts or listening to one of your podcasts with Meg Ferrigno from the Pure Land Project, whom Give a Hand contacted because we're planning to work with them and do a project in Tibet probably next year. And I was just mentioning to Meg that my travel to Tibet was probably one of the most meaningful trips I've ever done in my life for all sorts of reasons. I think it was an opportunity to connect to something that was beyond what I could even imagine. But at the same time, it was an opportunity to connect to a culture, a group of people that were so touching and so loving that I came back. I felt I was basically on cloud nine. I was floating because it was just so beautiful being there. So I've always wanted with Give a Hand to be able to do a project in Tibet. And we tried on several occasions to identify the right organization, and it was always a little bit difficult because there were certain things that were not quite what we were looking for at the time and everything. And finally, I had the chance through your podcast to connect to Meg and to the Pure Land Project, and I felt, yeah, that's the one. I feel this is the organization we ought to be working with. So there you go.
What an honor. I mean, as you tell that story, that means a lot to me to know that this endeavor of mine played a small part in the connecting of two great organizations, great groups of people. And the Pure Land Project, that podcast, that conversation with Abu Lama and with
Mhm.
Meg Ferrigno, just two great people. What a great conversation it was, and it gives a little taste of, I think, what you're talking about, having experience there in Tibet. So that's awesome, wonderful, wonderful report, and again, an honor, privilege of mine to have played a small part in that, and thankful for them and the work they do. Thankful for you and the work that you do, because then you're going to be able to come alongside them and participate in some way, and it's gonna matter. It's gonna make a difference for the people of Tibet. Okay, let's talk about you for a second here. Um, what does it mean to be one of the 15 Canadian heroes? Now, you're not bringing that up. I'm bringing that up. I'm asking that, but I've researched you a little bit. What does that mean? Because apparently you made that list.
Well, of course, it's an honor, but at the same time, I'm sure just like all of the other leaders of organization you've interviewed, we are not doing the work that we do based on that. I mean, this is not even something that you think about while you're doing the work that we do. Um, of course, I am honored to be part of that list. But at the same time, I feel very grateful for all of the people that I've had the chance to work with around the world, those that I still work with to this day. And I feel that they are also a little bit um, part of that list with me. I'm not solely alone because I'm solely, like I was saying earlier. Give a Hand is solely like a connector. So, like I was saying, we got to connect with the Pure Land Project, and obviously you had somebody else on your show, like I was saying to you, the Rock Paper Scissors from Vietnam with Sarah Neroni and her two kids, who we work with as well at Give a Hand, supporting some of their initiative in Vietnam. So all of these people are, working for the same purpose and the same aim of helping others and being there for others. So, and realizing that basically we're also interconnected on all aspects, of the work that we do. So, um, like you were saying earlier on before we started the show, Adam, we don't want to be reinventing the wheel here. We're just basically part of it and working all together to try to make things move forward and helping communities and helping groups and all that kind of stuff. So just to conclude on that, I appreciate being part of that list, but I wouldn't say that it's actually what guides me in my everyday work. It's not something that I think about so much.
This is The Edge of Adventure. My name is Adam Asher. That is the voice of Daniel Lalonde. He's joining us today from Give a Hand. And in French, of course, as we've fully established, it's known as Monde par la main. And he's joining us today for the podcast from Montreal, Canada. Again, his name is Daniel Lalonde, and you can look him up online at mondeparlemain.org, mondeparlemain.org, or just look up The Edge of Adventure, track down this podcast. I've got the links there on the page, so you can very easily click and get to their organization. The good news too is once you get there, they've got an English version of the website, and you can navigate it there. If you don't speak French, you can they've got the English, and you'll be able to understand and get a grasp on all that they do, which is a lot, as we've discussed, working with these great organizations around the world. Very carefully selected, the locations, the works, the people, their approach, all that very, very carefully selected. And yet, through the years, they've worked with so many. I did a little bit of research. I mean, this number may not be 100% up to date, but I think it's something like 38 different projects in Asia, 25 in South America, 25 probably in Africa, somewhere in
Mhm.
there. And these projects have ranged from relatively small amounts of money needed to execute them to large amounts of money. So you've done all these different things working with all these different organizations. But when you begin to work with an organization, here's my question. Is it a relationship that might generally last a very short period of time, get the project done, move on? Or are you building a bigger, longer lasting network?
Yeah. Actually, one of the focus of Give a Hand is actually to establish a kind of family of partners, of which we work with, maybe not every year, but once they're part of the portfolio of organization we work with, well, the organization is part of Give a Hand. So over the years, we've established these contacts with, like I was saying, over 30 organizations, and they're still part of the organization And so it all depends as well, like I was saying, to the interest, the funders that we have, and the demands we have from our different funders. So there is some years where basically we have demands that are coming mostly for projects in Africa. So then we'll try to invite for a call for proposal our partners in Africa. And then from these projects, this is what we'll put forward to our different foundation, our different funders, and have them select the project that they feel is most connected to them, like I was saying earlier on. So so we do some project like you were mentioning, between 5 and 50K, no more, because one of the reasons being that we're a whole group of volunteers. We're solely volunteers at Give a Hand. And of course, the organizations we work with are a lot of the time don't necessarily have all the facilities or capacities, I would say, to manage projects that would go over 50K because they're still small or in development. And we have to basically go with the flow in regards to that and respect that. And also for us, it's a matter of providing to the project managers we have on our team opportunities to work closely with a partner organization and assist them on the projects that they're doing, and making sure that the project manager doesn't feel overwhelmed by the amount of work or the budget that they have to manage with the organization, you see? So this is the reasons why all these aspects have to be taken in consideration with the work we do.
Daniel, what would be the most challenging part as you've done this through the years? Hardest part about it is?
Well, I would say one of the most challenging part, I would say, is that it's definitely been the last year and a half that we've had to deal with, and with COVID and the pandemic. I would say that that's been a pretty challenging period for Give a Hand, and the partner organization, of course, because the demands were really big, and on all aspects. Of course, there was need for money, for food, for support, in regards to health and in regards to masks and all sorts of hygiene products and everything. So we kept going on at raising funds for the different organization as per what they were requesting at the time and when we could provide them these different things. The other aspect was, of course, as part of our DNA at Give a Hand, we also provide support and mentorship to the organization we work with. So basically, we assist them in their needs, beyond, I would say, simply doing or assisting with a project and providing funds for doing that project. So it could be linked, for instance, I give you an example, to problems like in the last year and a half, where some organization had problems in retaining their volunteers due to the pandemic. Some other organization were in the midst of redoing their strategic planning, and they didn't really know where to look or how to go about it, considering the situation they were going to. Then another organizations, for instance, went through losing through COVID their director on the ground, which had a major impact on the organization and on their capacity of raising funds. So you see, it's all these it's different for all organization, and whatever they go through is not always clearly identified, but we have to go with what they're going through and try to assist them to the best of our capacity, I would say.
Daniel, as you look into the future now, what is next for Give a Hand?
Well, presently, Give Hand has, we've been sort of like hiring new people to work with us, as volunteers. And so that's very important to have a great team and a committed team. And obviously, we were seeing that with the expansion on the amounts of projects and the amounts of funding we're getting for doing projects through foundations and donors, we felt that we needed to get new people, which we're doing now. Also, we're conducting different programs for the benefit of our own team, because of course you work with others, but you have also to think about who's working with you on an everyday basis and making sure that they're satisfied in the job that they're doing and they're motivated in doing the job that they're doing as well. So as a volunteer, you always have to think beyond the frame and beyond what's there as a job, for instance, as a project manager or as a secretary or the treasury, the treasurer of the organization. So you have to provide, if you can, some form of training for them and opportunities to meet and share on larger scale, on larger level with the different partners, but with the different groups of people within the organization as well. And we see for the future, well, Give a Hand is not about the quantity per se of the projects that we do, but much more about the quality of the work and the projects that we do with the partner organization. So we're focusing on that and making sure that we don't get to lose our own DNA, because it could easily happen over time,
This is The Edge of Adventure. That's the voice of Daniel Lalonde, who is joining us from Give a Hand. Monde Parlement, here on this edition of the Edge of Adventure podcast. And Daniel, as we get close here to wrapping it up, I wanted to ask another kind of philosophical question or open-ended type question. Why are you doing this?
Well, I think I've always had that fiber anyway within me. I mean, it's been there all part of all my life, So, of course, I was always involved in doing some volunteering within schools. When I was in primary school or in secondary school, I would do some form of volunteer work. And even though afterwards, when I was working in the film business, I always saw my work, for instance, as a person who, with my own experience, had should be passing it on to others as well. I felt that whatever you have, it's not solely for yourself. It's also for the benefit of others. Because I feel all through my life, I walked the paths of others, that were there before me. And that's really important to honor that part within my life and try to do the same for others that are coming, whether it's young people joining our organization who want to learn, or whether it's communities where I work. And that, when you ask the question, why do I do this, is basically because I feel a real commitment to human beings all over the planet, and feel that I should provide whatever I have and make it available, whether it's my connections, my thoughts, my talents, and make it available to others. So that is one of the reasons. For instance, just to conclude on that, Adam, is that we worked over the years with so many artists as well. We worked with tons of photographers, and all sorts of people that joined us into doing some work. And I see, for instance, all of these pictures that are coming on at the moment. Some were not necessarily done, I would say they were all done by different organizations that we worked with, or famous photographers around the world. And we just want to honor the work that they're doing as well, which is very important, because they basically provide the opportunity for the rest of the world to see what's going on out there and how beautiful it is.
Daniel, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks for all that you do. Let's end on this following question. What is your admonition to the audience? What would you say to them listening, watching today? Your word to them as our final question for the show.
Well, I would say one of the things is that sometimes where people can think, oh, that is not so important per se, or, each gesture that you have towards somebody that you know or you don't know, as a matter of fact, has got some impact on them. Whether you know it now, whether you see it now, it might be in a year's time, it might be later on in their lives. But this is something to remember, that we're all interconnected. And basically, it is important that these gestures, you do not stop yourselves from doing them. And you need to provide and connect to others so that they get to move forward to their best, to be the best of themselves, basically. So I would say, don't hesitate, and call somebody, or be there for somebody, or listen to somebody. And all of these small gestures contribute, from my point of view, to make the world a better place.
This is The Edge of Adventure, and my guest today has been Daniel Lalonde, CEO and founder at Give a Hand, also known in French as Monde Parlement. You can look him up online at mondeparlement.org, mondeparlement.org. And as I have said before, you can always look up theedgeofadventure.com, find the post that has to do with this podcast, or just look it up in the comments section, the notes section. You'll find it there. I'll put the link to make it very easy for you to get in contact with Daniel's organization, mondeparlement.org. Daniel, thanks for what you do. Thanks for your friendship and your support. Thanks for your participation as well in the new mobile app, Rugged Compass. That means a lot to me. I thank you for that. And just thanks for being the kind of guy that's not content to just go along to get along. You know, you've gone through your life and you are determined to make a difference somehow, and you have done so. And we're thankful for people like you.
Well, thank you to you, Adam, for what you're doing. Like I started this chat today before we were online, like saying that I'm really appreciative of the work you do for connecting us all and providing a platform for all organizations around the world to be able to talk about what they do. So I'm very thankful to you as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Daniel. We talked about heroes today, and I think about all these people that are on the ground serving, giving of themselves, making sacrifices, giving of their time, their money, their know how, right? They could be doing so many different things, and they are choosing to serve others to help make the world a better place. Those are the heroes. And I just do my best to shine a little bit of light, a little bit of attention on them because what they're doing is amazing. It's amazing and it is hopeful. It gives me hope. It inspires me. And all I want to do is hopefully share just a little bit of that here through the edge of adventure and then also through Rugged Compass. So once again, Daniel, thank you. You're awesome. We'll be in touch and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Adam. Have a lovely day.